Welcome to Right Mindset. We often view our lives as a series of external battles, the difficult boss, the stalled project, or the person who just doesn't understand us. We spend years waiting for these external conditions to shift, hoping that once the environment clears, we will finally be free to pursue our potential. But what if the greatest challenge you face isn't outside of you, but within you? Think of your life as a grand ascent toward your highest potential. You are standing at the base of a massive peak, and the path ahead seems blocked by your own habits, fears, and history. This isn't just a metaphor, it is the fundamental truth of personal development. When we look at the core principles of human growth, we realize that the mountain isn't in your way. The mountain is you. You are the architect of your own limitations and the only one capable of dismantling them. As we begin this journey of internal excavation, we must ask ourselves why we choose to stay in the shadow of our own peaks, a question that brings us directly to the hidden protective nature of the habits we often mistake for self-sabotage. Having identified that the mountain is a reflection of our internal structure, we must now address the heavy weight of self-sabotage. Most of us carry this term like a badge of shame, assuming we are inherently lazy or prone to destruction. But here's the secret that will change your perspective. There is no such thing as self-sabotage in the way you've been taught. Every destructive action, from procrastination to perfectionism, is actually a deeply ingrained survival mechanism designed to protect you from a perceived threat, such as fear of success or the vulnerability of being seen. You are not broken. You are simply using an outdated map to navigate a brand new territory. When you stop viewing yourself as your own worst enemy, you suddenly gain the clarity needed to see your behaviors for what they truly are. This realization is the bridge to our next challenge, because once we understand why we sabotage ourselves, we have to confront the uncomfortable reality of why we insist on returning to these harmful patterns again and again. Now that we have dismantled the myth of sabotage, we must face the gravity of our own comfort zones. Human beings are rarely seeking happiness. We are almost always seeking familiarity. If you were raised in an environment characterized by unpredictability or lack, your nervous system learned that peace is actually a threat. When life becomes calm, your brain rings an internal alarm, signaling that something is wrong because it doesn't match the chaos of your past. You don't retreat because you want to hurt yourself. You retreat because your brain is trying to save you by pulling you back into the familiar, even if that familiar state is painful. Breaking this cycle is the hardest work you will ever do, but it is the only way to reach a higher altitude of being. As you begin to tolerate the danger of peace and success, you will find that a new kind of intensity emerges, the intensity of raw, unfiltered emotion, which leads us directly into how to utilize this emotional energy as a compass for your life. Understanding that you are addicted to the familiar, the next step in your evolution is mastering the art of emotional currency. Many people believe that true self-mastery is the ability to suppress or ignore difficult emotions like grief, anxiety, and shame. In reality, these emotions are not obstacles. They are high-value data points. Every time you feel a surge of resistance, your emotions are pointing exactly to the work you need to do or the wounds that require healing. If you run from the pain, you remain at the base of the mountain. If you lean into it, you treat that pain as the fuel that powers your climb. By reframing every negative emotion as a signal of where your growth is waiting, you reclaim the power to guide your own destiny. With this new, data-driven approach to your internal life, you are finally ready to integrate everything we have discussed into a daily, actionable plan that permanently shifts your reality. Now that we view emotions as data, we must examine the language we use to narrate our lives. Most of our internal dialogue is inherited from childhood, filled with warnings and limitations that no longer serve us. When you say, "I am not good at this," you are not stating a fact. You are stating a preference for the familiar safety of mediocrity. To climb your mountain, you must intentionally rewrite your script. Every morning, you have an opportunity to consciously choose a new narrative, one that focuses on growth, capacity, and resilience, rather than fear and history. This process of intentional narration is the engine that drives change when motivation fades. As you begin to speak differently, you will notice the world around you shifts to match your new frequency. This shift in perspective inevitably changes how you interact with others and how you view the challenges ahead, which naturally leads us into the critical importance of setting boundaries, the subject of our next installment. As you redefine your internal narrative, you will find that your external life must also adjust. True self-mastery is impossible without firm boundaries. Often, we sabotage our own growth by keeping people or responsibilities in our lives that reinforce our old, familiar selves. You cannot reach the peak of your mountain while dragging the baggage of toxic relationships or outdated commitments that keep you grounded in the past. Learning to say no to what is comfortable but stagnant is the highest form of self-love. It is not about being cold. It is about protecting your energy for the climb ahead. When you establish these boundaries, you create a vacuum that the universe will fill with new opportunities and supportive connections. This clearing of the space is essential for what we are going to explore next, the necessity of radical self-responsibility as you near the top of your climb. We are reaching the higher altitudes of our journey. At this stage, you must embrace the principle of radical responsibility. You have spent years blaming circumstances, your upbringing, or your environment for where you stand. But those factors only dictate your starting point, not your destination. Taking full ownership of your life is the ultimate act of power. It means acknowledging that even if you didn't create your problems, you are the only one who can solve them. When you stop waiting for a savior, you become your own hero. This is where the magic happens. You stop looking for permission to succeed and start granting it to yourself. As you solidify this mindset, you are preparing for the final integration of your journey, which we will bring together in our concluding section, ensuring you have a lasting plan for your future. We have reached the summit of our journey, but this is only the beginning of your true mastery. You now understand that your self-sabotage is simply your mind's way of protecting you with outdated habits, and every challenge is just data pointing you toward growth. You have the power to define your own path and stop choosing the familiar over the life you are truly meant to live. Thank you for joining me here on Right Mindset. If this helped you gain clarity, please like, share, and subscribe so you never miss our next deep dive into the psychology of success. Keep climbing. Your future self is waiting at the top.